If you pop a pimple incorrectly, you will end up with a big red angry mark that lasts twice as long and is twice as big and leaves behind a permanent scarring mark. Does it sound familiar? Most people are doing this wrong, and if they just knew the secret that I'm about to show you, their pimples would go away way faster and would stop leaving marks behind. So let's get into this. My name's Brian Turner, and I used to have extremely severe cystic acne and honestly couldn't resist picking and popping. I had pimples that usually would have lasted a week or two, but they were lasting months. Sometimes I would have a cyst that would last up to 6 months. I was basically just doing everything wrong. So tell me if this sounds familiar. I was pushing with literally as much pressure as I possibly could put on my pimples. I was popping them even if they hadn't come to a head. I was using a sewing needle to try and open them. I was popping them again the next day. Honestly, I was just trying to get the last of the white out no matter what, but my face always looked raw, it looked red, it looked painful. So are you doing the same thing that I was doing right now? I'm glad that you're here because once you finish this video, you will never have those same problems happen again. First off, I want to say that if you're dealing with breakouts all the time, check out my acne program, theacnemethod.com. It'll help you get rid of your acne by targeting at the source. That way you don't have to pop any more pimples. So this is Sherry, and she's going through the program right now. She said, I didn't even realize how much I've improved lately. I'm so stoked. It's been a breath of fresh air to go out barefaced for once and feel confident. Honestly, it feels so good when I get comments like this from people who are going through the program. It's super simple. I made it only 10 steps, and people often see results start almost immediately. So if you want to regain control of your skin, go check it out. Now, let's dive into this video. The first thing you need to know is that pimples basically have a balloon-like sac that's under the skin, and the whitehead is just the top of that sac. So if you've ever tried popping it with your fingers, and whether you got a little, a lot, or nothing out, but the pimple ends up getting bigger or it refills the next day and looks worse, you popped the sac under the skin where you can't see it. Oh man, I remember having a speech in class and having a really deep cyst on the tip of my cheek. I had a little bit of white, so I thought, yeah, I could probably get rid of this. And I pushed so hard on it that my eyes were watering. And you know, you get to that point where you swear you are so close, it's about to pop. So you say, okay, just a little bit harder, but only a tiny bit of white goo came out. And by the time I got to the class, 3-4 hours later, it was 3 times bigger. It was way redder and it looked way worse. What happened is that sac broke under the skin somewhere before the top of the pimple above the sac ruptured. And this caused a ton of inflammation, caused the sac to get even bigger, and it filled up with even more goo, and that is the wrong way to do it. So let's stop doing that. Here's the right way to do it. It's super easy. We're just gonna need an alcohol swab, a sterile acne lancet, and a hydrocolloid bandage. I'm gonna link everything below so it's easy to find. This works best after a hot shower. It's gonna soften the pimple skin up. It's also gonna bring the goo to the surface of the pimple. So first thing we do is we swab the pimple to clean the skin and prevent infection. Next, we're going to break open our acne lancet, which is just basically a tiny little sterile needle, and we're gonna puncture the pimple right on the top. Sometimes you have to do it 2 or 3 times so that you can make the hole a little bit bigger, but if there's a lot of pressure, it might just start to leak out a bit. So we can wipe this up, but I know it's tempting. Don't push on the pimple. Do not squeeze it. Instead, we're gonna take that hydrocolloid bandage and we're gonna apply it directly on top. Now we're just gonna go to bed. We're not gonna touch it anymore. This hydrocolloid bandage is hydrophilic, which means it sucks up liquid. It wants to pull hydration out. Because we've given the sebaceous fluid, the white goo in our pimple, a path out, the bandage is going to drain and suck that pimple out overnight. Now here's the fun part. The next morning, you're gonna wake up to a surprise. The bandage is gonna be saturated with that white goo. We can carefully remove it and take a look at it, which is pretty cool. And if there's anything left, we can wipe it up with another alcohol swab. Now, we might have a little hole there. We might have a little goo still left. It's all gonna depend on how big the pimple is. But what I like to do is to put another hydrocolloid new bandage on top of it, because sometimes it's gonna drain even more, and leaving it on until the next day can suck all the rest out. And now it's day 3. The second bandage might have goo or it might not, but we're gonna take it off and bam, look at how much better the spot looks than if we had pushed and pressed and just forced it out with all our might. The bandage has successfully removed all the white, but it also created a moist environment for the wound to heal, which sped the whole process up. So at this point, I like to apply something on the spot to help it heal faster and to prevent a mark. So I usually use glycolic acid because it's a chemical exfoliant that helps increase skin cell turnover rate, which basically just means the skin heals faster. It also sloughs dead skin cells off, so it'll prevent the same spot from clogging again immediately, and it helps to prevent discoloration. So the one I use is the pumpkin enzyme mask from Banish, and I just use it as like a little spot treatment, leave it on there for 10-15 minutes, and then I just wash it off. A week later and the spot is barely noticeable. Compared to the months that my spots would stick around in the past, this method is a lot faster, and I'm glad that you now know how to do this too. There is another option, which is to completely not pop or even touch your pimple at all. I've made videos about that before. I'll link it. Check that out. It definitely takes a lot of discipline though, so who knows if you'll want to give it a try. But I hope that you liked this video, and if it was helpful, give it a thumbs up, leave a comment below, and subscribe if you have not subscribed already. And always remember, you are not alone, you are beautiful, and you are a part of Team Acne. I'll see you skin bosses in the next video.